The 7 things we shouldn't be feeding our children. Let's get it. David Roots TV. Greetings family, Dr. David Roots here, Roots Chemist. Give thanks for joining me again. For anyone that gets to join in and watch this video, watch this teaching, this presentation, I'm thankful. I do these videos because I get inspired to do certain topics. They just pop into my head. And people should understand that the videos I do are to uplift, to educate, and they are from my heart. None of it is fake. I try my best to practice what I preach because I've seen the benefits of the different things that I have lived in my own life, in my family's life, or counter to that, seeing the negatives that might result from the different things that I might speak out against. So for anyone that gets this information, passes it on, shares it, know that this is sincere. And this one in particular is important because it's about our youth, about our children, about our families, our nieces, our nephews, the next generation. Okay? So, content for today, the 7 things that our children should never eat, or the things that we shouldn't feed our children because our children depend on us. I'm here in my garden, my allotment. I'm in the UK, I'm in London. Unfortunately, it's now September 2019 when I'm making this video. It's the end of September, and as you can see, I've got my jumper on, my hoodie, and it's starting to get gray, it's starting to get cold, and we are African people. We need the sun, but more importantly, we need the foods as well, especially when we don't have the sun. Like now, when we're going into the winter months, it's important to feed our children and ourselves in certain ways. So I just wanted to share some of the information that I have. You can see, as I said, I practice what I preach. This is my little apple tree behind me, you know, all organic, beautiful, nice tasting apples. At my feet, you can't see it, but I have pumpkins, I see my corn. We have to practice what we preach. However, we know, and I know, that it's a struggle. So it's about doing the best that you can. I am not evangelical about what I'm saying about health. We all can do the best that we can, and we can try to make the best choices that we can. I have a saying that says, it's not what you do sometimes that will hurt you, it's what you do all the time. So it's about trying to make habits of the positive things. So hopefully this information about the 7 things that we should not be feeding our children will fall into that category. The things that, you know, even if we do it from time to time, we know that we're not going to do that for our children all the time because it won't promote their good health. So let's get into this. So excuse me if you see me looking down. I have written down a few notes. Okay, there's a lot of elements around me. The camera might shake, but this is real life. So let's get to it. So the first one of the most important things to avoid in children, especially the younger they are, the more you want to avoid all of this list, and that is white flour products. Okay, so refined flour, refined grain products. Okay, so we're talking about things like pasta, rice, white pasta, white rice, white bread, even the so-called when you look at the package, it might look brown. If it's not wholemeal, whole grain, you want to try to avoid giving that. And there's such a high range of different things that you can choose from, that if your children, you don't like, for example, the taste of whole wheat, you can try other types of whole grains that they might like, or at least even 50-50, which is where they put half whole grain and half refined. So You want to get away from that. Now, why? Each one of these things, I'm going to give you a reason why, because it's all good just saying don't eat those things, but let's talk about why. Well, why? Refined grains have a lack of fiber because they've taken all the fiber out, and that's going to promote constipation. And in young people, that is very problematic because it is through our bowels and our bowel movement and our digestive system that our body can get rid of toxins. So if they are not able to have effective bowel movements at such a young age, that's going to build up the toxins in their body, in their blood in particular, which can cause health problems to the young developing brains and the young developing structure like their muscles and bones. So we want to stay away from refined grains, refined white flour products as much as possible, especially white wheat products, okay? What are the alternatives? As I said, whole grain products, such as whole wheat products, whole wheat bread, whole wheat flour, whole wheat pasta, all the other types of grains that are out there. You got barley, spelt, rice, you know, so many different type. Buckwheat, which is a type of wheat, but it's a much friendlier wheat on the digestive system, much more ancient wheat. There's so many products that anything you want, whether it's breads or rice, you can use brown rice, whether it's flours, there are alternatives that taste just as good. Okay, you want to make your pasta dishes and your spaghetti and different things like that for our children, then use a whole grain product. So number 2, okay, what should our children not be eating? 7 of them. The number 2, dairy products. Is enough research right now, okay, so much research out right now about the impact of dairy products, in particular in regards to the plagues and the epidemics of type 2 diabetes that are going around in all of the communities, in particular the black community, those of African descent. You want to stay away from dairy products as much as possible, okay? And that includes, of course, milks, cheeses, and yogurts, all right? Now, why? Mucus. Dairy products promote the release and build-up of mucus, and that is detrimental to our young people, because what it does is they can't breathe. And I notice in my own children, and I have 6 children, so I notice that if they eat dairy products, and obviously we raise our children, you know, I'm the father, but they have mothers and stuff like that, so I'm not always in control of what they eat. But I notice that people who consume a lot of dairy products, they often have 2 issues: breathing problems, which sometimes goes into being exacerbated as in asthma, as well as skin issues like eczema, okay, which in these types of climates where you don't have a lot of sunlight can become a real problem, okay? So why is that an issue? Well, when it comes to that mucus, a lot of times it won't even result in the running of the nose. They will have mucus up in their sinuses. So if you go and look on the internet and you look at the sinus cavity, we have lots of spaces in our heads, okay, between our ears, on the top of our nose, and that is what can be blocked up with mucus. And when that's blocked up with mucus, your children can't breathe. They do things like snore. They can't breathe at night. They can't sleep at night. And that means they're starving their bodies, especially their brains, of the necessary oxygen that they need to develop. So stay away from the dairy products as much as possible. If your child has an issue with mucus, then you want to try first avenue course is to take away the white flour and to take away the dairy, okay? Now, the other reason is it promotes obesity and fats, as well as can be a carcinogen. You can go and look all this stuff up yourself, okay? Do your research. It also has a lot of hormonal content depending where you're getting your milk from if you're not buying organic milk. So at least if you're going to drink milk, you at least go and buy the organic free-range milk, grass-fed free-range milk. And finally, why not? Is because of many people, in particular African people, we are lactose intolerant. And lactose intolerant means that when you drink milk, you get severe stomach cramps, or you might think it's just gas. It promotes gas and obviously runny stools, and that's actually your body saying, I am allergic to the milk sugars in milk, the lactose. Okay, so what is the alternatives? There are so many alternatives now to drinking milk. You have so many nut milks in the market. My favorites are oat milk, almond milk, cashew milk, depending on the use, whether you want to use it for cooking, whether you use it for cereal, whatever. There's such a high range of milks that are available out there. We don't like necessarily in the plant-based community to say milk, because milk is what comes from animals to feed their young. So some people will say juice, so coconut milk is actually coconut juice, almond milk is almond juice, but it's not really a juice either, because juices come from fruits or from vegetables. So whatever you want to call it, the plant-based milk alternatives are out there. Pick your favorite one, try different ones out, okay? Rice, all sorts. Try to stay away from the sweetened ones, because they can contain a lot of sugar, but definitely that's one of the things you want to avoid is dairy, and a substitute is milk. So let's move on to number 3. Number 3 of what we should not be giving our children, especially in the 21st century, especially with so many options available, especially with buying things that are healthy for us, is not only available, but it's also cheap. Number 3 is soda and artificially sweetened drinks, okay? So when we say soda, in the UK they say fizzy drinks. Take that crap out of your children's diet. Why? Well, there's no calories in there. Oh, the calories are what they call cheap calories. There's actually no vitamins and no minerals in these drinks. They are just water, sugars, and acids, and they ruin the body. They promote tooth decay, and they promote decay as well in the digestive system. The high sugar content also can lead to hyperactivity, and as well as for young people that are not moving around much, not exercising much, they're going to promote obesity. And as they get older, they're going to promote things like skin issues, blotches. A sure sign that children have a lot of sugar in their diet is that they get blotches on their face, because they're not getting enough vitamins and minerals in their diet. They're eating a lot of the calories from cheap calorie foods like fizzy drinks and like drinks with artificial sweetness. So what can we do as an alternative to that? Give them fruit-based drinks, fruit juices, which still have a high sugar content, but at least they have the high vitamins and minerals. And if you're concerned about that, then you can add some water, a little bit of water. Flavored waters, a lot of them have some of the artificial sweetness, but I'd rather see a child drink a flavored water, okay, with fruit flavored water, than I would to see them drink one of these sodas, especially things like Pepsi and Coke and all of these brand names things. They're absolutely terrible for our children. They are not doing anything to promote the development, and in fact they're probably affecting their brains in hugely negative ways that studies are probably being suppressed by the companies that are making them. Okay, so that was number 3. What we shouldn't feed our children is soda and artificially sweetened and sweetened drinks in general. Okay, and I forgot to mention that high sugar content in those drinks can lead to things like bone issues. Okay, my older children especially were elite sportsmen. They were raised on a vegan diet. Later on in their teenage life, they chose to eat outside of the vegan diet, but up to like the age of 11, they were raised as vegetarians and as vegans. Okay, and I'm convinced that a big part of the strength that they had in their bones and their muscles and their tendons was from that whole food diet. And I'm also convinced that a lot of the injuries that young people have when they're playing sports, who are not on that sort of diet, comes from the consumption of the high sugar content drinks like fizzy drinks. So that's something to be aware of. So let's keep moving on, because I don't want this video to be a long video. Number 4 of the things that we should not be feeding our children are candy and sweets. Okay, yes, I said it. candy and sweets. Right now it's September. October's gonna come. You're gonna have all the families participating in Halloween. They're gonna get all of these candies and sweets. Parents take their children out. In the supermarkets, the grocery stores, they put the candies and sweets at the eye level of the young people with the colors that will attract them, because they know that the children are going to put pressure on the parents to buy them. They paint them or design the marketing, the advertising of the packaging to be the same colors as the things that they should be eating, like the fruits, like strawberries, which are red, like apples, which are red, blueberries, which are blue. That's the colors they make these candies and sweets. Why? Because they want to trick the brain into thinking it's something good, and they're one of the worst things that you can give to your children. Empty calories again. High sugar content is going to promote tooth decay. It's going to lead to obesity, especially in inactive children. Okay, and obesity can lead to diabetes. There are children as young as 11 now who are suffering from type 2 diabetes, which is the one that is preventable. And we need to take these high sugar, no vitamin, no mineral foods out of the diet, and candy and sweets are some of them. Just say no. Alternatives. Give your children fruits. If they want something to eat between meals, say go get a fruit, and have a variety of fruits there for them. Have fruits that they have never seen before, and it's interesting for them to try. Things like apples and strawberries, oranges, peaches, mangoes, all sorts of berries and cherries, grapes. Children love grapes. Okay, I don't care if they're seedless grapes or non-seedless grapes. It's better for them to have seedless grapes than to eat fruits. I'm sorry, than to eat these birds were distracting me in the back. Means somebody's probably behind me, or a fox or something like that. But it's better for them to have seedless grapes than to have sweets. Okay, yes, we talked about it. People talking about hybrids and GMO. I'd rather see them eat a GMO hybrid grape than eat a sweet that's full of dyes, that's full of artificial coloring, artificial sweets, and white sugar. Okay, so let's keep them away from those particular products. And I gave you the alternatives. Fruits, as well as there are a lot of sounds like some foxes are behind me. Then that's what happens when you're out in nature. I don't know if you can hear that. So yeah, these foxes. Foxes are fighting each other, or they've caught something. I'm not sure what's going on back there. So where was I? The alternatives I think we were talking about to the candy and sweets. Fruit snacks. Okay, there are so many different options in the market about snacks that we can give to our children that are made from fruits. Okay, so they look like the sweets that they want to eat, but they're made from fruit juice. Be careful of maltitol, which is a sugar alcohol basically, because a lot of studies have shown that it can cause indigestion, it can cause upset stomach, and it's an artificial product. Okay, and a lot of the fruits snacks that are made from gelatin, they will have maltitol in it, so you want to be careful of those and just look for snacks that are made from fruit juice. Okay, so let's move on to number 5 on our list of things that we should not be feeding our children, especially in the 21st century. Okay, number 5 is processed meats. Okay, yes, the hot dogs that we love to give our children at birthday parties or at home, the sausages, the deli meats. Those meats contain a lot of things that can cause cancer. Go and do the studies. Processed meats is one of the highest risk factors. Consumption of processed meats is one of the highest risk factors for causing cancer, as well as they contain a lot of preservatives, which is the cancer causing agent, and salts. And excess salts will lead to things like high blood pressure, hypertension. okay, as well as dehydration. And our children are not drinking enough water as it is. The other problem with processed meats is they don't have any fiber in them. And because they don't have any fiber, they are going to take very long to digest because they're meats, and are going to be bound up in the intestines, especially in the lower intestines, which is going to cause constipation. And we already spoke about the impact of constipation that it can have on the body, all right? How it can promote the buildup of toxins because toxins are not being able to be released. Finally, they're very high in fats, okay? And for our children, many who are living sedentary lifestyles, meaning they're not moving around much, high fat diets is leading to obesity, and obesity is leading to diabetes, okay? So we want to keep them away from processed meats. Now, what's the alternatives? Two alternatives. Listen, if you're going to give them, if you have to give them some sort of meat-based product, look for things that are as minimally processed as possible. And unfortunately, those are the things that you're going to buy that are going to potentially go off in your fridge. For me, on a plant-based diet, if I had to give my children like that, some things like that, I'm going to look for vegan alternatives, okay? So I might look for soy-based, like mock meats, mock chicken, mock turkey, and there's a lot of nice ones out there. You want to make sure they don't have preservatives in there. There are plenty of vegan alternatives for those things, and as well as different nut butters, okay? So instead of giving them processed meats for their protein, what happened to good old peanut butter and jelly, peanut butter and jam, or whatever you want to call it, things like that, cashew butter, almond butter, all right? So there are several alternatives that you can do to the processed meats, whether you go with a meat that's not processed, or whether you go with a vegan alternative, or whether you skip the meat altogether and just look for a higher protein type alternative, okay? So that's number 5 of what we shouldn't be feeding our children. Foods that we should not give to our children in the 21st century if we want them to be healthy. Number 6 and number 7, I really couldn't separate. So I've combined them together, number 6 and number 7, because they're both not good. But you have to choose the lesser of two evils. And they are, remember, number 5 was meats, processed meats. Number 6 and 7 are meat versus junk food, okay? Both. Which one? Now, to be honest, as a Rasta, as a vegan, as a holistic health practitioner, in my opinion, if I had to choose between the two, I would give my children meat rather than junk food. I'll be honest, because at least with meat, you can cook it and you can have healthy meat that they can eat and would be healthy for them compared to giving them junk food, which is frankenfoods. Now, a lot of people might disagree with me. That's okay. They might have their reasons. But junk food, what am I referring to? I'm referring to crisps or chips. I'm referring to chocolates. I'm referring to packaged food that actually isn't food. It's made in factories from things that used to be food but are so heavily processed that you really cannot call it food anymore. And the impacts of those things on the bodies, especially our children's bodies, are huge, okay? So before the advent of the industrial age with the ability to process and package food and preserve it the way that it was now, the rates of things like cancer and diabetes and heart disease were much, much lower than what they were today. But yet people were eating meats. But people ate meat sparingly back then. But it's the advent of the freely availability of things like what we call junk food, which is things in a package, okay? Chips and chocolates and cookies and all of that stuff, that has led now to these high, huge rates of things like cancer, okay? Of course, as well as the cheaply available amounts of meat that people are able to access now. That is also a huge reason. Hence why both of these for me are both bad. You want to avoid both of them as much as possible. But to be honest, if you were at home and you were trying to lead a healthy lifestyle and give your children a healthy lifestyle, and you made meat, for example, on a Sunday for Sunday dinner, you made some roast chicken, or you gave them some fish, some fried fish or baked fish. I would rather see you do that with some healthy vegetables, healthy whole grains, than to see your children eating junk food throughout the week. Okay, gorging on junk food while they're at school. I'm a teacher. Children come to school without food. They come with packages of Pringles, a whole bottle of Pringle, or a whole multi-pack of crisps that's meant for family. They'll come with that as foods, okay? And there's no wonder that there's a connection between the things that they're eating and the behavior and the ability to think in the education environments like schools. So both of them, meats and junk food, are things that we should be not giving to our children, but you have to take the lesser of two evils that work for you, okay? In the 21st century, and I'm going to close the video, there are so many alternatives of how we can feed our children and feed our children healthily and feed ourselves healthily, because our children model what we do. And why is it important? It's important for them physiologically, because we want them to live well. We want them to not get sick. The more they eat those things that I mentioned, those top 7 things that I mentioned, the sicker they are, the more time you're going to have off work. And no one likes seeing their children in pain. The other reason is the development of their brains, specifically for us in the African community, the community of African people. We are far behind in so many areas. We need our children to be operating as high a level as possible, and not just on the athletic arena, the sports arena, but also in the academic and intellectual arena, okay? And spiritually, the foods that we eat connect with us spiritually. So if they're eating processed foods, if they're eating foods high in toxins and high in things that are not making their vibration and their frequency as electric as possible, it's dimming their light rather than stimulating their light. It's not high in the vitamins which come from the sun, as well as the minerals which electrify the body, then they are spiritually also going to be dead. They are spiritually also going to be dim. And we need our children to operate on a spiritually high level. So this is Dr. David Roots here on a windy but beautiful evening in London, sharing my thoughts with you about how our children should eat, how we can raise the next generation. Roots Chemist, David Roots TV, signing off. Give thanks.